I think my one's got to be the whole on atmosphere. You know what I mean? I go to every ground around the country, and you know there is definitely a real problem with atmospheres at ground. I mean, all right, yeah, you go to Arsenal versus Tottenham, Arsenal versus Liverpool. It's a given. The atmosphere is going to be
absolutely.
great. But what I find, like at Arsenal, and I see it with a lot of other clubs that I go to as well, is that the fans nowadays are not like they used to be back in the day where, you know, they're up for it. Only the away fans are up for it and make a lot of noise. Invariably, most of the home fans are very quiet. And I think some of that is down to many factors, which is due to modern football. One of them we know, of course, is the standing issue, which I know is very sensitive to you guys at Liverpool. But that's still an issue. There is a sort of safe standing methods now that are used in Germany that are very effective, that are very safe. And I think it is time to trial some of those methods over here in England, because you've got a lot of fans, particularly younger fans. They want to stand and they want to jump around and they want to.
Listen, I can't debate. And it's definitely a big debate for probably it deserves its own. But I can agree that you still stand at the big games. Yeah. And it's loads more dangerous to be stood in seating. And I would agree the atmosphere is always better. And that's it. My only thing I think with the way it's gone, and I'll come to you on this, Flav, is that we always talk about getting more young people in the grounds and whatever. Yeah, I think a lot of people go to football these days though to spectate, not participate. Yeah. And I think and you see it on the Cop a lot. Is that I think in days gone by, if you get right at the back in like the singing section, as it were, you realise 15 minutes has gone and you've not really watched the match. You've been singing constantly, because I don't think you can actually sing at the top of your voice and give the game your full attention. More often than not, you see what happens in modern football now is you start singing, you're like, yeah, and then a chance happens and you go, what were we doing? Where were we? 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I'm back into the song. But I think more people these days go to take in the football rather than they go and go
back in the day, fans used to get behind their team. Now, I find that fans get behind the team when they're winning. Yeah. Or when they're doing well, but they're not behind the team like how they used to be back. And I said there's many factors. The standing one's one because, you know, you got stewards, some of them at Arsenal. You know, I mean, luckily for me, the section that I sit in, everybody stands anyway. But there's other sections that I've sat in at Arsenal. As soon as you stand up...
Do they generally stand in executive boxes?
I wish. Right, but as soon as you stand up in certain parts of the Emirates, you've got stewards on your case telling you to sit down or you'll be gone. Yeah. You know, so, you know, that's an issue. All right, people blame the sort of makeup of fans now, which there's not enough young fans. They're the ones that are going to create the atmosphere.
This came back from, and I'm sure at the time it had the right reasons at heart, but after, you know, Hillsborough, there was the Taylor report which called for a gentrification of football support, and you can understand the reasoning for it, that, you know, everything was in disarray and there was no right or wrong answer. It was just, we need to do something. But the fallout of that was essentially the formation of the Premier League. It was the attempts to remove working class fans out of the game, people that use going to football as an opportunity to vent and to vocalise and to get all the raw emotions that are built up over that week. And I know it's a cliche, but it's true, as most cliches generally are. But and what's actually happened is that there's a new breed of fan. And I've physically seen this happen because I used to go with my old man, who was that working class man, who's now made himself some money over his life and can afford to go to football and doesn't really have to worry about these sort of things. So my dad has been that transition, has been that gentrification. But local support, who would be very passionate about their club, and I'm not saying that people that don't live in Tottenham aren't going to be as passionate as local supporters, because all of the local supporters in Tottenham support Arsenal and Man United anyway, because Sky Sports tell them to. Yeah. Sky Sports say this is.
It's not called Sky Sports telling them, but anyway, move on.
Whatever, Robbie. So there's Sky Sports are saying to them, the top four is the only thing that's important. This is what success is. Instead of saying, actually, football's about your community. It's about what this club means to the local area, what it does for the local people, and the importance it has on their lives. And so that they can, when you go inside that ground, you're going to be passionate, you're going to be loud, and you're going to tell the other lot who's just turned up, this is our manor and our patch, and you're not going to get out without a few songs being sung at you.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's not all come back to the price that you're paying for your ticket in the first place. That's where it all comes from. I think it stems from this thing where people expect to be entertained because they're paying a lot of money, and that's what I feel it comes from. You know, when you used to go and you used to enjoy it on the Saturday afternoon and you didn't pay 50, 60 quid, there wasn't that expectancy on it. And I think that's where it's all come from. So again,
the mindset has changed.
I think there's loads of different reasons. I think you mentioned there your dad. I mean, my dad stopped going the minute the seats were put in the Gladys Street. That was it. That was the end of him. And I think it's been gradual. I mean, like the Taylor report is just load of nonsense, really. It isn't just an excuse to just get rid of working class people. The only thing it said was that tickets shouldn't go up, which they did. Sky and the Premier League used as an excuse. Safe standing, I think, should be brought into football.
You say that, but the Taylor report was when, you know, men fencing went out of
no, I know, but
it
didn't actually deal with actually what was good. It's like Heysel. It was just like, what was the decision? Just ban everyone. It didn't really deal with the situation. Yeah. It just went, well, this is a completely different way of doing it, and that's what we'll do. It didn't actually deal with the situation. Yeah. And what we've seen is, you know, we've seen more money pumped into the game, which again, like you've just said, it's like the tickets go up, so you suddenly you want to start watching the game more and more. But then there's loads of other factors, like there's social factors, like some of the people you go to the game with, you mightn't see them all week. Yeah. So but you don't go to the pub anymore before the game. So for the first 15 minutes, you haven't chat about what you've been doing for the last couple of weeks because you haven't seen them. Yeah. There's so many factors involved. You're watching the game now, and your concentration is taken away by things like social media. You know how many times you've been at the game, you can rerun a situation on your phone straight away. Was that a penalty? It was a penalty.
Maybe you just don't get enough people in Goodison Park because we don't get a phone
we
signal.
Can't get a reception at Arsenal.
I can get it perfectly on my provider, gents. You get all those factors into the game. You watch how many times you get a free kick on a penalty and you're watching people watching it through the back of a phone rather than being in the moment.
The only thing I would say though,
literally never. No one does that at Anfield.
Well, I've seen the iPads, so...
The only thing I would say though, right, is that we do have to remember that with football, it does have to move on as well. Because I also remember that back in the day, football, the stadiums are horrible.
Well, I was going to say, people tend to look back at the 80s and go, wasn't it wonderful?
It wasn't.
Football in the 80s was fucking horrific.
Yeah, it was not wonderful.
I was there.
There were things about the 80s, like the atmosphere was blinding. But the stadiums were terrible. For me, as a black guy who used to go to football, the racism was horrendous. You know, there was a lot of really, really bad things about it. But what I'd like us to do is take some of those good things, like the atmosphere,
exactly,
and bring that back into modern day football. Because there's a lot of good. Even though we're saying about modern day football, I think there's a lot of good things about modern day football.
Well, the fact that you can take your kids and not fear them dying when you take them to the football.
Let's bring back a few of those things. Let's bring and marry it up. So
that's what I'm saying about the Taylor report, though. It didn't. It sort of just said, well, we've got this problem, so we're just going to get rid of everything.
You know what it is?
It's like
going, there's an alcohol problem in the country. Well, what we'll do is we'll just put the price up on alcohol enough so that people can't afford to get drunk.
Let's just tax sugar.
What it's done was instead of taking people out of pubs and onto street corners and parks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, let's tax sugar instead of educating people on the dangers of it, or actually telling people to get off the fat arse.
I'll tell you what's the best thing about the atmosphere, and it's something that MLS does, and I think MLS show might have put the tweet out. I don't know what ground it was, but it was like you were about to enter the supporters section or something like that. Now expect to sing.
Sounders, wasn't it?
The Sounders, and expect to chant, sing, jump up and down, and if you're not prepared for that, then you're not in the right part.
Some
of the
clubs
ground,
in MLS allow you to take flares in. Could you imagine that here?
Yeah.
You get arrested.
It's so unfashionable, it's ridiculous.
Apart from that rugby league, they love it.
I got it.
Thanks, Chris.
I didn't laugh hard.
At Tottenham, we set up something called the 1882 movement, which was about bringing back, for select games, I mean, the atmosphere at Tottenham, it's a really dodgy issue for me to talk about because the atmosphere at Tottenham is good on its day. It's fantastic. White Hart Lane, one of the best places to be on earth. You know, against Arsenal the other day, it's obvious, it's going to be that way. But, you know, Europa League games when you're playing Caribag, Sheriff, or Maribor, or Sheriff, you know, you've never heard of before you got drawn against them, you can understand the kind of apathy towards
what
that
about
game.
If you're playing, say, Sunderland at home?
Well, it's the same. It's the same as poor.
Stoke or
but
something.
We set up,
want to offend
basically everyone but Arsenal.
No. But
I'm
I'm just trying to make the point that, like, if you're playing a team where all your fans expect that we're supposed to
you're
beat
right.
these lot.
Absolutely.
You know.
But we set up, no, you're right. We set up the 1882 in order to bring some atmosphere back to those Europa League ties. But we found that there were fans inside the blocks that we kind of agreed to stand in that hadn't signed up to it. They didn't know about it, and they weren't there for that. They were there to watch their game. So I think a solution to this is working with the clubs, and this is what we're trying to do in the new stadium, is working with the clubs to get like-minded fans together. Here's a section, and I don't want to use the term singing section, right? Because it's kind of horrendous.
It's for Palace fans, isn't it?
But do you know what?
No, but there's nothing wrong with. But it's a
works.
branding thing. You call it the ultras section. Everyone goes, "Whoa, the ultras!" Like,
I'm being a coach out.
I think for English, I think that ultras is a kind of pejorative term because English people are not used to it. It isn't part of our football culture, and it's always going to attract criticism and people laughing at it. But if you can, what we need is a kind of general, like a Borg type. It's Star Trek reference here. I don't watch Star Trek, but I know what it is. Is this a general understanding of that this area is where
wouldn't that be where a safe standing section would come in?
Absolutely.
Because it's a touchy subject, but I think enough time has gone over now where we can start talking about it as adults and say it works in Germany. It's something that the fans love. It can be done. We just need to stop tiptoeing around it and have a proper conversation about it. It has been done. Maybe we need the likes of Celtic to get it to. They do it, then maybe it'll start trickling into our game.
You know what the thing about it is that the safe standing thing. We might as well touch on it briefly. But keep your suggestions coming in. By the way, we've got Chris. We'll actually start reading some of that with the second one. We all stop talking for long enough to do it. But on the safe standing thing, I genuinely think Liverpool Football Club should lead the conversation on that, because there'd be nothing worse than it to happen and Liverpool to not be in the conversation. Because for a start, because if it comes back and everyone else has got it and we've not entered into that conversation or out of a blind, we're not even going to discuss it. Liverpool Football Club could end up getting left behind on something, which I don't want for a start. But also, who's better positioned to it? Consult with the families, you know what I mean, and all that. Be sensitive on it. But Liverpool have got to. They can't. I don't think they can afford to get left behind.
Let's be honest. Plus, we're getting to the time now where the inquiry is going to be finishing soon. We're going to get the exact details. And once we've got the exact details, if they come out like we think they'll come out, then it's nothing really to do with the standing. You know, that place was a death trap. But if you've got the real facilities and they, then there shouldn't be any problem with that. I mean, but like you've just said, someone asked Bill Kenwright at an Everton AGM, and he just went, "I wouldn't even entertain it because," and you're thinking, well, no, but let's be a little bit more grown up about the situation. It's something that actually can work.
I think choose your words a bit more carefully in that instance. I don't think it's about being more grown up, is it? But I think it's about being a bit more subjective in some way. But then it's a very hard thing to do from a Liverpool perspective and this city perspective. Being subjective is very difficult on something that's such an emotive.
Plus, he kind of lived through it, and you know, in terms he's aware of it. He's aware at the time.
Yeah, but I think that's just that's for me that kind of comment. I'm not having a go at him. That's playing to the gallery. We've had discussions in this city. You know, the guy who actually wants to see it in, he had a roadshow and he brought it to the Sandon, didn't he? And
John Dutch. Yeah.
Liverpool fans were there and they were in favour of it, but because it is such a touchy subject, you actually need someone to say, right, we are going to have a discussion about it.
The hope is that, you're right, once everything's, once it's all done, the inquiries and stuff, they'll be able to separate the disaster from the football to some extent, you know what I mean? Because, it was a policing issue and it was a safety issue, as much as anything else. It wasn't like, because people still link it with, it was fans, you know what I mean? I think that's it's still too interweave, but actually I don't really want to. I think, we'll do this in due course. Chris, have you got anything for us?
On the safe standing stuff, Sam Harrison said the only reason against safe standing is because of incidents in the past. They rightly serve as a warning, but we are now living at a time when we can organise it safely and securely.
I think, it's a decent point. I think, like I say, and it comes back to, for me, is that I do stand at football matches.
Yeah, of course.
And as I say, it's only going to take one incident in that, and people get hurt, and there'll be the question will be why. If that's happening anyway, why is more being done?
I don't know about you, but I've been at the game where you've all been standing, especially the big games, and it only takes one person to push it, and once you get off balance by hitting that chair in front of you,
you're toppled.
You know,
I think with safe stand, I think the the movement towards that has become so significant that it's inevitable that it will happen in England. I don't think that it won't. Clubs are designing stadiums now with safe standing in mind. I know Tottenham are putting provisions for rail seating should this happen. When I say I know, I heard from a reliable source, but if Tottenham are listening and that's not true, don't shout at me. I'm pretty sure it's true. The FC United, I know in the lower leagues, they've got standing. I think it's happening. I think the general...
It will take someone like Celtic, though. Yeah. Obviously, not in England, but if they do it and it shows that it can be done, listen, the clubs they don't want it because they probably don't feel like they can control the people.
Well, because I actually said this at a thing the other week. Football is still terrified of fans. Every element of football are terrified of what fans will do, and there's still that fear because it's like being able to drink in the stadiums and stuff like that, which is still ridiculous that you can't have a bevy in your seat when you can have it 10 feet away underneath. But and yet the rugby, the cricket, and all that, and obviously it's because everyone's terrified that all football fans are going to turn into lunatics when they've had a drink and whatever.
Rugby fans,
absolutely, rugby fans known for drinking sensibly, absolutely. And
there's no chance they'd set off flares or start fighting amongst children.